Okay? All right. Is that the next one? All right, so the other pieces of this scope is basically managing the existing system. So there is an existing system that you basically going to be maintaining this while the new construction phase coming up, and then while we're approving the design, and then you go into the construction mode, installation, and then comes up new on a new area. So, so that's part of the scope. Then roaming. So we're talking about having roaming capabilities within this domain for others as well, for other carrier services as well. So, and which is inclusive of all the billing and processing and account management. So that's very key. We don't want to definitely want to maintain that, which we have today. Radio frequency channel mapping and coordination efforts. So as I said before, there used to be a lot of that today, but as we put the policy together, part of the scope is which this project has to be also adhere to that policy, meaning that you do first a scan, which is what's there, and then basically you map that to your frequencies you're going to deploy based on design. Once you get that approval, once design is done, implemented, then you do another scan. So now we have a footprint that has changed. Based on that footprint, anyone else that wants to install whatever solution it is, they have to do the same thing. So we're trying to reduce the conflict and the mapping the channels. So the responsibility of the mapping of the channels in RF within the space, the envelopes, is the responsibility of the contract. And then we get into more of the private. So we have an integration point with DFW network. So one of the private SSIDs would be basically us at the airport. We use that infrastructure as well, but it doesn't go to the carrier or your backbone domain. It will just be handed off as a secure connection to us. And also there would be other third parties on behalf of the airport, not everybody else. But there might be some specific application that we want to take advantage of, and that would require to have a third-party connection. So that would be approved by us and the project. Of course, the refresher technology, hardware, software, and features, that's very key. System cannot exist without having refresh of those type of challenges. And then ongoing system reviews. So there will be ongoing reviews as far as customer connectivity, the customer care issues, technology issues, backbone issues, any kind of inclusive ideas or issue that we have had within the system itself. And that would be more of a quarterly or yearly annual kind of review as well.
On the legacy systems that are now existing, how are they going to be handled, Ali?
Specify a little more. How do you mean handle?
How are you, since we're going to have to be responsible for the frequency reused and the mapping and the like, and there's legacy 802.11 are out there, so we work around the legacy systems, or will they give way onto us, or what's the position of the airport in respect to the frequencies?
Within the footprint of the terminals, that RF signal penetration, propagation, and channel assignment is already part of our scope, which is already there today. Existing system has that already. So as the new side of the terminal comes up, basically you're going to be using those channels. Does that make sense? So you're not creating anything new above and beyond that. So it's basically the same configuration. The channels exist here, then they come out, and then you have to review to see how much of propagation do we have. Now also we're expanding the system. So today, right now, is at Concourse level and Grand Hyatt and whatnot. So that system is going to be expanded. We're going to be going to ramp level, garage level, and whatnot. So mechanical rooms. So based on that, then we have to, that's what the detailed design is about. So you have, within the core of the structure, you have SSIDs and mapping already, which we're going to provide that. But going above, beyond that, then that's where the design comes in. Okay? And then, of course, the last piece, I think we talked about that, having the multiple profiles or portfolios as far as connectivity, either complementary through advertising or would be paid services. And definitely in the future, it depends on where the Wi-Fi goes. As you see, the numbers you saw, smartphones, especially now, they have kind of added more life to the system itself, but we'll see how the future plans. So based on that, we have to have the flexibility to be able to change that technology and provide different profiles in different settings. Yes?
Actually, I have two questions on the last point in terms of the service model. I wasn't at the earlier session, so I apologize. Is that a requirement for both complimentary and paid, or is it either or?
Well, in the RFP, you're going to have 3 profiles.
Okay.
So basically, you have one profile that basically the way it's today. You pay for subscription, and it goes from there. There's no advertising there. But then the other 2 profiles, which I think we're referring to high or low, medium kind of a speed, then you have different type of settings for advertising. How often they have to see this, how many they have to see that, and that basically opens up the door for what Michael talked about as far as sponsorship and those type of things.
Okay. Second question is, managing the existing system from a perspective of brand integrity, will proposers have an opportunity to audit that and ensure that, you know, there's from you know, in terms of fitness for duty, we'll be able to augment that if we need to while we're operating it? I mean, you might have an extended period of time where you're operating a network that may not be fit for duty based on your...
Yes, yes, and more. You're going to be able to do all of that. And
Okay.
also the same opportunity exists for you to replace that.
Gotcha.
So, and that's part of the key design elements going to be, because some of the features that we want to take advantage of, we want to be able to extend it all throughout the system. So, and if we keep up with the same hardware, then you might not be able to do that. So our encouragement is that when we do set up the design meetings, that it would be part of that scope. The system's got to be overall changed. Again, if you look at the timeline for trip perspective, right, that plays a role into design and implementation as well. But the idea is to replace it. You don't have to deal with the legacy system and the limitation you might have. The new system, of course, provides new feature sets that definitely want to take advantage of. So you'll have the opportunity to do that.
Final question, would there be details in the RFP around the existing system, the topology and CPE that's being used?
The way I approached it, basically, once we get past the RFP, there would be a conceptual design provided. And then based on the conceptual design, then we'd go into a detailed design. So either during the RFP or before, we haven't discussed that yet, but it could be a conceptual design provided. And then from there, we can develop the detailed design. Because again, these timelines are very sensitive. If we're talking about next year, then the detailed design has to be approved no later than 90 days of the contract day. And then that goes into installation mode, which again, you're pretty close for a timeline, as you saw Terminal A coming up, phase 1. So definitely we want to be able to have opportunity to install the system, test it, and go to operational mode. So you will have a lot of work ahead of you to be able to keep up with that schedule. So it is very important to keep track of these dates and times and scope.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Was this helpful to understand a little bit more about what we're thinking? I mean, I think we kind of kept this to the last. At least you see the flow of the information coming out as far as the space, timeline, what John talked about, digital messaging, as well as what Michael was talking about, sponsorship. The last piece, basically the infrastructure, plumbing, and those type of things, which again, it goes within the flow of the concept of the RFP you're going to see. All right? Any more questions? All right, thank you.